A decorated U.S. Army general, a routine coffee run, and a cop with a badge, but not a clue. When General Marcus Johnson stepped out of a cafe, he never expected to be thrown in handcuffs for looking suspicious. The officer had no idea who he was dealing with. But Marcus, he stayed calm. One phone call. That's all it took to turn the officer's world upside down. Sirens blared, orders were shouted, and within minutes, everything changed. This wasn't just an arrest, it was a career-ending mistake. And the fallout? Oh, it was just getting started. Before we start the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new one. General Marcus Johnson stepped out of his black SUV, dressed in casual clothes, enjoying his day off. The highly decorated U.S. Army general had spent years serving his country, but today he was just a man grabbing coffee from a small cafe on Main Street. As he walked back to his car, a police siren blared behind him. "Hey, hands where I can see them!" a loud voice barked. Marcus turned around and saw a white police officer, his hand resting on his gun. "You got a problem, officer?" Marcus asked calmly. "You fit the description of a suspect in this area," the cop said, stepping closer. "Let me see some ID." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "A suspect? What kind of suspect?" "Black male, tall, suspicious looking," the officer replied without hesitation. Marcus sighed and reached into his pocket to pull out his wallet, but the officer's hand immediately gripped his gun. "Slowly," he shouted. Marcus paused, then carefully handed over his military ID. The officer barely glanced at it. "Nice try. Looks fake," he sneered. "You're coming with me." Before Marcus could protest, the officer grabbed his arm and twisted it behind his back. Big mistake. Marcus remained calm. He had faced worse situations on the battlefield. He took a deep breath and said, "You might want to rethink this." "Yeah? And why is that?" The officer laughed. Marcus looked straight into his eyes and said, "Because in exactly 1 minute, you're going to get a phone call that will change your life forever." Then, he pulled out his phone and made one call. To the Pentagon. "Next. 40. "You said. Next, ChatGPT said." The officer scoffed as he tightened the cuffs around Marcus's wrists. "Yeah, right. The Pentagon? You expect me to believe that?" He chuckled. "You're just another punk trying to act important." Marcus didn't argue. He simply held the phone to his ear as it rang once. Twice. Then a deep, commanding voice answered. "This is General Adams." "Marcus, what's the situation?" The officer's smirk disappeared. "General Adams, I've been unlawfully detained by a local officer," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. "I need this handled immediately." There was a brief pause. Then Adams replied, "Understood. Give me his badge number." Marcus turned his head slightly and read the numbers on the officer's chest. "Badge 6712. The officer's face paled. "Who are you talking to?" "You'll find out soon enough," Marcus replied, keeping the phone to his ear. Within seconds, the radio on the officer's shoulder crackled. "Unit 12, stand down immediately. Release that man. That is a direct order from command." The officer's hand shook as he grabbed the radio. See, Chief. What's going on?" "I said release him. Right now." The officer fumbled with the cuffs, his face turning red. Sir, I was just—" Marcus pulled his hands free and dusted himself off. He looked the officer dead in the eye and said, "You just made the worst mistake of your career." The officer's hands trembled as he took a step back. Sweat formed on his forehead as he stammered. Look, I was just doing my job. I thought—" Marcus cut him off with a sharp look. "You thought what? That a black man driving a nice car had to be a criminal?" The officer opened his mouth to speak, but before he could say another word, screeching tires filled the air. 3 black SUVs with government plates pulled up. In seconds, uniformed military police officers stepped out, their presence commanding authority. One of them, a tall man in a decorated uniform, marched straight toward Marcus and saluted. "General Johnson, sir. We received the emergency call. Are you all right?" The officer's face drained of color. "General," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Marcus ignored him and turned to the MP officer. "I'm fine, but I want this man's actions investigated immediately." The MP officer nodded before glaring at the local cop. "Badge 6712, you are hereby placed under review for misconduct. Hand over your weapon and badge, now." The officer's jaw dropped. "Whoa, wait! This is a mistake. I didn't know who he was." Marcus took a step forward. "And that is the problem." The officer hesitated, but seeing the military police closing in, he finally unbuckled his holster and handed over his gun and badge. Suddenly, a voice crackled over the officer's radio, his police chief. "Unit 12, report to headquarters immediately. The mayor wants a word with you, and so does the governor." Marcus smirked. "Looks like your day just got worse." The officer swallowed hard as reality hit him. He had just arrested one of the most powerful military figures in the country, and now there was no way out. The officer stood frozen, his face drained of all color. His eyes darted around, searching for an escape from the disaster he had just created. Marcus folded his arms and tilted his head slightly. "You're still standing here? I believe your chief and the governor are waiting for you." The officer's radio crackled again. "Unit 12, do you copy? Get your ass back to HQ, now." The MP officer beside Marcus stepped forward. "Let's go, officer. You're done here." With shaking hands, the disgraced cop turned and shuffled toward his patrol car. The entire street had gone silent. Bystanders, who had been recording the entire incident on their phones, whispered among themselves. Just as the officer reached his vehicle, Marcus called out, "One more thing." The officer turned, his eyes filled with regret. Yes." Marcus stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "You should know who you're dealing with, before you let your prejudice make decisions for you. I've fought wars to protect this country, including your right to wear that uniform. And yet, you saw me as a suspect instead of a soldier." The officer swallowed hard, unable to meet Marcus's eyes. The MP officer gestured to his team. "Get this footage to the Pentagon. I'm sure the defense secretary will want to see this." The officer's head snapped up. Wait, the Pentagon? Please, I didn't mean to." Marcus turned away, already done with him. "You meant exactly what you did. Now deal with the consequences." The officer's knees almost buckled as he climbed into his patrol car and drove away, his career hanging by a thread. Marcus took a deep breath and looked around at the watching crowd. Some nodded in respect, others still held their phones up, recording. One young black man in the crowd stepped forward. "Sir, I just want to say thank you. For everything." Marcus gave him a firm nod. "Stay strong, son." Then, with his authority fully restored, he turned back to his SUV. It was time to get back to his day. But one thing was certain: the racist cop's life would never be the same again. As Marcus opened the door to his SUV, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. An unknown number. He answered. "General Johnson speaking," a deep voice responded. "General, this is Governor Randall. I just saw the footage of what happened to you. Unacceptable. That officer is already on administrative leave, and an internal investigation has been launched." Marcus smirked. "Good to hear, Governor. But I hope this isn't just for show." The governor cleared his throat. "Not at all, sir. I'll personally make sure this officer, and any others like him, face the consequences. This kind of behavior won't be tolerated in my state." Marcus leaned against his SUV, watching the last of the police officers clear the scene. "I'll hold you to that, Governor." "And one more thing," the governor continued. "If you're open to it, I'd like you to speak at a law enforcement summit next month. Officers across the state need to hear from a leader like you." Marcus thought for a moment. "Send me the details. I'll consider it." "Understood. And General, I sincerely apologize for what happened today." Marcus nodded. "Make sure it doesn't happen to someone else, and we'll call it even." He ended the call and slid into the driver's seat. As he looked in the rearview mirror, he saw the young black man from earlier still standing there, watching him. Marcus rolled down the window. "What's your name, son?" "Jalen, sir," the young man replied. "You ever think about serving your country, Jalen?" Jalen hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, but things like what happened to you today make me wonder if I'd ever be treated with respect, even in uniform." Marcus studied him for a moment before saying, "The uniform doesn't change how some people see you, but when you wear it with honor, you change the world around you. Think about that." Jalen's eyes lit up with understanding. "I will, sir. Thank you." With that, Marcus rolled up the window and pulled away, leaving behind an officer who had just ruined his career, a governor trying to fix a broken system, and a young man who now had a spark of hope for the future. But for Marcus, this was just another day in America. As Marcus drove down the road, his mind wandered. He had faced countless enemies on the battlefield, terrorists, insurgents, and foreign threats. But today, the enemy wasn't on a distant battlefield. It was here, at home, dressed in blue, hiding behind a badge. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a familiar name, Secretary of Defense, James Holloway. Marcus sighed and picked up. "Holloway." "Marcus, I just saw the footage. Unbelievable. You all right?" Marcus chuckled dryly. "I've been through worse. But I have to ask, how many others go through this and don't have the Pentagon on speed dial?" There was a pause on the line. Then Holloway said, "Too many." Marcus tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Then it's time for a change." Holloway's voice lowered. "That's exactly why I'm calling. The president wants to meet with you." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "The president?" "Yes. Tomorrow morning. The White House. He wants your take on what happened, and more importantly, what we're going to do about it." Marcus exhaled. This was bigger than just one racist cop. This was an opportunity to shake the system from the top down. "I'll be there," he said firmly. "Good. See you in D.C., General." As the call ended, Marcus glanced at his reflection in the rearview mirror. He wasn't just a soldier. He wasn't just a general. He was now a man on a mission, one that could change the future of law enforcement in America. This fight was far from over. It was just getting started. The next morning, Marcus stepped out of a black government SUV onto the grounds of the White House. Dressed in his formal military uniform, ribbons and medals shining under the morning sun, he carried himself with the same authority that had earned him the respect of soldiers worldwide. A Secret Service agent greeted him. "General Johnson, this way, please." Marcus nodded and followed him inside. As they walked through the halls, a few staff members whispered among themselves, clearly recognizing him from the viral footage. Some gave him respectful nods. Others just stared. Within minutes, he was led into the Oval Office. President Carter stood from his desk, extending a hand. "General Johnson, it's an honor." Marcus shook his hand firmly. "Mr. President." The Secretary of Defense, James Holloway, was already seated. "We appreciate you coming in on short notice, Marcus." The president motioned for him to sit. "Let's get straight to it. I saw the footage. Unacceptable. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" Marcus leaned forward. "With all due respect, sir, we've talked about this problem for decades. It's time for action." The president nodded. "I agree. That's why I want your recommendations. How do we prevent this from happening again, not just to high-ranking officials like you, but to every black soldier, veteran, and citizen who faces this kind of discrimination?" Marcus took a deep breath. "First, nationwide mandatory training for all law enforcement on handling military personnel with respect. Second, a new federal oversight committee, independent of local police departments, to investigate racial profiling cases. Third," he paused, "we make sure officers like that one never wear a badge again." The president exchanged a look with Holloway. "I like it. Let's make it happen." Holloway leaned in. "Marcus, we want you to lead this initiative. The country respects you, and frankly, no one is better suited for this fight than you." Marcus sat back. This was bigger than just a personal mission now. This was a chance to change the system from the inside. He nodded. "I'm in." The president smiled. "Good. Then let's get to work." Marcus shook his hand once more. He had fought for his country on foreign soil. Now he was about to fight for justice at home. and this was a battle he refused to lose. Marcus stepped out of the White House, the weight of a new mission on his shoulders. He had spent his life defending his country from threats abroad, but now he was preparing for a battle within, a fight for justice, fairness, and accountability. As he walked toward his waiting SUV, his phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number popped up. "Thank you for standing up. You're making a difference. We need more leaders like you." Marcus didn't know who sent it, but he didn't need to. He knew that people across the country, especially young black men and women, were watching. This wasn't just about one bad cop. This was about a system that needed change. And now, with the backing of the most powerful office in the world, Marcus Johnson was in a position to make that change happen. As his SUV pulled away, he looked out at the Washington Monument in the distance. A soldier, a leader, a fighter, and now, an agent of change. This wasn't just his story. This was the beginning of something bigger.